First of all, Sharon, that the speech you gave is such an important one, and it illustrates something else. It is that when you have a factual basis there and all the evidence is in front of one, you then should throw your passion behind it and seek to change everything, and you did it, and I was moved by it. And it reminded me of those early days in Galway in the 1970s, when the first shelters for women opened, and the difficulties that were placed in its way. And all I can offer you in the 3 minutes is a very truthful, committed response to what you have to say. I was, in my earlier life, a sociologist, and one of the very early shocking things I remember when we were teaching courses was to realize that violence against women was in fact a learned behavior, and that it was sometimes the great tragedy of children witnessing it was that it could be transmitted so easily and become a kind of a learned response to dealing with difficulties in houses. The other part which I thought to think about as well is sometimes people say, well, this is something that, we should just be aware of. That's just not good enough. I see it as a citizenship right. It should be able, if you are to be a fully inclusive citizen, to be able to live in safety as a woman, and as a woman who has born children. How often in the 70s, if the truth be told, did I meet women at my advice centres who were told by one representative of authority or another, including religious authorities, you should stay with him, and it was made difficult to move. That is the truth of it. So if there is to be significant change, the change must be not in just something that we're calling for. The change must be in consciousness, certainly. And we should remember how long it took us in our republic to put an end to corporal punishment of children, to stop even that. Violence simply has to be eliminated from our consciousness. And then in changing the institutions are ones into which you don't present yourself and your children as abused, wondering whether it will be open. There are statutory people who are doing wonderful things, and some of the services have really come on. But there are other things involved in it as well. I remember, for example, we were inside the door of one near Woodkey in Galway, where the principal reason was to make the doors secure in case people came in, because you had people chasing women who were in fact refugees from violence. I think we need now, what can the President do? I think that one of the things that is very important is that very soon after the inauguration of the President on the 11th of November, International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women is on the 25th of November. There should be a major statement from the new President on the issue. And if I am elected President, will make that day every year a day in which we will take an audit on where we are in making progress. And again, the President will go, no doubt, to visit the Council of Europe. And when the President visits the Council of Europe, it is an appropriate time to raise the issue of what Ireland has signed, for example, into the Convention, the Convention Against Violence of Any Kind Against Women and Children, which was signed, which is available for signature since last May. So I'm not promising anything that the President cannot do. The President's influence is one of moral suasion at home, continually addressing the issue and educating by saying the enormity of what violence is. And the President speaking in an institutional setting about what must be driven on now if we are to have women as citizens of Europe, everywhere respected by the same level of protection as the Convention requires. And then as you come home, in many cases, and indeed there will be talks of cuts and austerity, what do you say? Well, you say there's no cut should ever impact in such a way as it makes your citizenship in safety impossible. And then there is the learning side of the children. Surely in the schools, we should be really, really making the case that you never, ever resort to violence. And the other side of it is those who are in authority, in whom women have placed their trust, be it the civil society, be it religious orders or whatever, it's said, if you are threatened, you immediately seek assistance, and you don't say, for the sake of the institution, you must commit to it. or that you must spend 3 generations and rear your children, and then when they're gone you can look after yourself. You have rights from this very moment, and the President should speak about rights. And the President should speak substantially. What you are entitled to, what we are entitled to, is what we're entitled as rights as citizens, not just sentimental response at all. It's not simply good enough. So I will, as I have said, on that International Day, every year we will take audit, and in the meantime I will be supportive in every way I can, as I have been in the past.
Questions from the floor, and maybe you give your name when you want to ask the question. Okay, hands up. Right, lady there with the glasses.
My name is Jacqueline Healy from the National Women's Council of Ireland, and I would like to ask the candidates, if they became president, what major initiatives would they conduct in order to advance women's equality, especially for women who find themselves in vulnerable situations in Ireland? Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. Michael D.
Well, there is a myth that is, in fact, that violence against women is located in the lower socioeconomic groups. It is not related to social class. And in fact, the greatest difficulties are from people who are slightly above the lowest socioeconomic groups, because simply they find it the hardest to leave. I certainly think that Gay's suggestion is a good one, and using it possibly as a national address, it is that important. I think there's another thing as well, is that Article 28(5)(2) says that the Taoiseach shall keep the President informed of issues of domestic and international policy. And that can be an occasion where it should be discussed. I also, and last May, announced that I was committed to a concept President Childers had of having a set of seminars. I've committed to the first one in relation to being young in Ireland. I certainly we could have one in relation, and I think we should have one, in relation to the elimination of violence in Ireland, and that would help. And then I intend, quite as I have said, to use the International Day for a regular review and keeping the pressure on.
Okay, thank you very much. Next question. Lots of people. I'll take from this side. It'll be really equal. Woman here. Brilliant.
Mary Ronayne from Carlow Women's Aid. 2.5 billion is the cost of violence against women currently. We're working at a time of increasing demands on our services with reduced funding. These are services that are largely operated by women, founded by women, for women and children. Not many women in politics, not many women in boardrooms, despite Mary Davis's success, I suppose. So I'm just wondering, what would the candidates do around engaging business and entrepreneurial interests in coming in and supporting us to address the issue of domestic abuse?
Again, if we are to face up to where we are, where we want to be over the next 7 years, we have to realise that the last 15 years increased aggression in our culture. It increased aggression at every level. It increased aggression in what people are proposing, for example, to work and to develop, even in language and so forth, in the culture at every level. And it crept into the schoolyards and so forth. So, in a way, we have to have the courage to face up to the values that are at the basis of that kind of society. Now, I think in relation to the specific question that one asks, I think there's another issue in it, and that is the relationship between men and women anyway, and the acceptance of the woman's experience. I have been in settings where the pressure has been put on women, for example, to be a kind of a surrogate, aggressive man, and that was in fact how you progressed. I honestly believe that the President must be somebody who, by example and by regular presence in appropriate settings, addresses these themes, consistently taking them up. I'm saying it straightforwardly. There is nothing particularly wonderful about the Irishness we have experienced for the last 2 decades, but there is a wonderful opportunity of turning it into a kind of Irishness that will be abhorred by any suggestions of violence, and that's not pie in the sky. It has happened in other countries, and we can do it too.
A quick question.
It's heartening to hear 3 men speak about violence against women. It's not often that we hear that. And I suppose my question isn't a question, it's a request for men to speak out and break men's silence against women. And I ask you from my heart and from the heart of every man that comes up against violence against women to do that and to stand with women and ask every man to stand and break that silence.
Here.